And you need to be present to create opportunities. You need to be in that room, virtual or otherwise. And I know that feels tough for a lot of people, but you don't want to be a well-kept secret. There is such a demand for content. There is so much material being made, particularly, I would have to say, in high-end TV, scripted, but also in studio feature films and in factual too. So, you know, for example, the British Film Commission estimate that there is going to be needed a possible up to 50,000 new jobs in film and TV over the next 4 years, which is an incredible number. So for those of you guys who are entering or have just entered the industry, you're doing it at a good time. There's a lot of work to be had out there. So for a start, it's worth taking a kind of long, hard look at your online fingerprint. You know, you might have a website, which is great. If you do, is the content on it up to scratch? Is it, you know, show ready and up to date? But more importantly, how are you getting anybody to look at your website? It's sitting there on the internet. How are you driving traffic towards it? How are you getting to people to engage with it? But you just need to know what message that is you are putting out there to potential employers and whether you are happy with that message. And does your online poster, your online presence, match your actions? You know, is what you are saying you're about demonstrable by what you're actually about? Really, what you want to be able to do is build networks, build a community in order that you can build relationships with people who will potentially employ you and people you in the future will employ and work with. And keep splitting the atom. Everybody you meet, everybody you access, every conversation you have, one of the easiest things to do is ask them towards the end of that conversation if they would mind suggesting you to somebody else or suggesting somebody else you can contact and that you could use their name in contacting. So you're then splitting the atom. You're doubling that possibility every time. You're adding somebody new. So one meeting leads to another, and hopefully those meetings will lead to work and employment. So staying in contact. When you've been to an event, you've bumped into somebody, you've met them, you've got their card maybe. How do you stay in contact with people? These are kind of a lot of the questions that we get asked as agents. How often? So it's about timing it when you've got something new to tell. So in principle, probably 3 or 4 times a year, but also when you have got news. So you've just done a new job, or you've just been on a panel, or you've seen them on a panel. It might be that you want to congratulate them because you've seen them talk, or you've just watched something that they filmed or were involved with, or seen something that is their work that's in the cinema or on Netflix or whatever. So just make sure there's a reason, and or 3 or 4 times a year, and send your updated CV through, and don't get too despondent. And most importantly, when you're contacting people, be clear in your ask. Make sure that you're asking for something specific so people know how to respond. Are you asking for a job you've heard they're doing? Or are you asking to meet them? Or are you asking for a Zoom chat with them? And perhaps ask for advice rather than work. Because if you ask for work and they haven't got any at the moment, it's a straight no, end of the relationship. But if you ask for advice, most people, particularly in our sort of post-COVID Zoom-based world, where it's easier to set these things up, most people are happy to engage. And you need to be present to create opportunities. You need to be in that room, virtual or otherwise. And I know that feels tough for a lot of people, but you don't want to be a well-kept secret. Make sure that you're doing your research on the company or on the individual or individuals you're meeting. Those things are a hell of a lot easier now than they were when I started. So just do that Googling, see what you can find out. Follow that trail, look them up on IMDb. I'm sure you're all doing all of this. What shows that are a good reference point if you're going to have a specific discussion about a project from a variety, as wide a variety as you can, of platforms and broadcasters? And if you've been given a script to read or information about the project, have an opinion. You don't have to agree, but make sure you know what your opinion is. Also check via places like LinkedIn whether you have any mutual contacts, because it's a really good icebreaker. Oh, I believe you know so-and-so, or I see you worked with my friend so-and-so on your last job. All of those things just humanize what can be a very, very scary situation. Your career needs a strategy, because careers are defined as much by the jobs you don't take as by the ones you do take. So know what it is you're giving. You're giving your time, you're giving your skill, you're giving your energy and enthusiasm, your professionalism. What are you gaining? Are you gaining new contacts? Are you gaining a big price tag, a high salary? Are you gaining enjoyment? Is this going to be an enjoyable job? And know your walk away point. When it comes to negotiating, which we're going to talk about now, know where you will walk away. You have to value yourself if you want other people to value you. So assess the context of this negotiation. Is this a job you're definitely going to do, whatever, because it means so much to you, or it's such a good contact or whatever? Or is it actually one offer among several? And be aware that if it's a necessity, you've got less wiggle room. And if it's an opportunity, and there are other opportunities around, you're going to have more wiggle room. So know your limits and be kind to yourself. Look at the situation, i.e., what they want from you, what they might be offering from your own point of view, and how that feels when they make their offer. But also look at it from their point of view. What's in it for them? What do they want out of this negotiation? Have they got to do 50 training negotiations over the next week? Have they been given a very limited budget for whatever reason by the people above them, by the broadcaster, by the network? What are the stresses and strains in their life? The more you humanize that negotiation, the more successful it will be. What will reassure them? Start off from, how can we make this work? Put yourself on the same side as them and look at the total deal in one package. Negotiate all the elements together rather than one by one, so that you can use one against another and say, look, if I'm prepared to do this, would you then do that? Do those who name their price first lose? I think a lot of the time they can. I think it's always interesting to try and get the other party to engage with naming a price and terms and conditions first. Make sure you know what quotes around this type of role are, what the industry standards, comparisons, what are your friends and colleagues earning, what are rate cards saying. Have your evidence so that if you are going to counter and you are going to ask for a higher rate, you know why. You've got some evidence, you've got some argument. What is your internal logic? If you say eventually, no, that's not as much as you were hoping for and you don't feel that works for you, stay silent. It can take a little while. Make sure you give that person the time to respond and to even the time to feel perhaps a little bit awkward. Don't then undermine it by going, well, no, I know I said that, but actually just say silence. Silence is very powerful. And sometimes, as we've said, it is okay to walk away. Sometimes the negotiation just isn't successful. Like we said right at the beginning, with all of these tools and your great CV and your fantastic show reel and the credits you're building up and the network you're building, have a business plan. What's your little business going to be doing in 1, 2, 5 years? Make sure you get in charge of your finances. There are some great sort of free facilities on the internet. David Thomas Media is a particularly good one. What advice do you have for people trying to build a career at a later stage in life? My advice at the moment is go for it. What you bring is maturity and wisdom, and presumably a whole load of life skills from other areas. We run a trainee scheme and a foundation, and several of our trainees and foundationers have been in their 30s and their 40s, and they have come from other areas of life, from accountancy, from events, from the military in several cases. So bring those skills, work out how you kind of package them as being transferable skills, and good luck. And hopefully you will be successful.